Good afternoon and welcome to our COVID-19 update for today. I'm Nicola Spurrier, the Chief Public Health Officer. So I do have some concerning news for South Australia. We don't have any community transmission, but we do indeed have a number of more truck drivers that have entered our state and tested positive. So I wanted to give everybody an update. We've now had 5 positive cases in truck drivers in the past 6 days. So people will have understood that we had 2 gentlemen that came in from New South Wales and went through Port Augusta and Ceduna over last week, and we certainly had a lot of call-outs to those local communities over last weekend, and we had to cancel some of the COVID management plan events in those areas. And then we had a subsequent truck driver, a third truck driver yesterday, and I just would give you a little bit more detail about that particular person and some of the exposure sites. But we've also had another truck driver that I was told about this morning, and indeed a 5th truck driver around lunchtime today. And obviously this is very, very recent news, and we're updating with doing our contact tracing interviews. But I needed to tell the South Australian community that the outbreak in New South Wales and also in Victoria is a real risk here for us in South Australia, and that if anybody has any symptoms whatsoever of COVID-19, you must go and get tested, because this is a real situation, it is a real risk. So I'll give you a little bit of information about the 3rd truck driver, and we did have this in our press release last night, but I just will step through and then I will get on to the other 2 cases. So the 3rd truck driver came from New South Wales. He travelled through South Australia and he received a positive result on the 30th of August. He had a test in New South Wales on Saturday the 28th of August, and he hadn't received the result of that until he'd actually come through South Australia. But as soon as he got that result, he let his company know that he was positive, and in fact that site was able to get hold of the people working there and put them into quarantine very quickly. So he has now left South Australia, but we have 2 listed exposure sites, and these have been previously advised, and these sites are up on the SA Health website. And in addition, we have SMS'd people who have QR coded in, particularly to the On The Run at Port Wakefield. So there's an On The Run at Port Wakefield on the 30th of August between 1:50 and 3:20 p.m. And so those people who have been there need to get tested immediately and quarantined for 14 days. And we set up a pop-up testing site at Port Wakefield in case anybody was there and was remaining in Port Wakefield. But just to say, many people in South Australia will know that as a place that a lot of people travelling will pass through, and they may not be in Port Wakefield any longer. And then we have a Tier 4 Metcash Distribution Centre, which is at Jepps Cross, and this is where that truck driver had gone to pick up some goods. And this particular truck driver, again, the industry has been fantastic. He was wearing a mask, and it was we really expect to have contactless deliveries for truckies, but we do have 2 people that we know who we've already put into quarantine, but we are calling that out as a public exposure site of Tier 4, which is monitor for symptoms. Now, in total, from the 3rd truck driver, we've identified 144 contacts, and 40 people have been directed into quarantine, i.e. they've been called and given a direction with our officers to go into quarantine. But there may be other people who have received an SMS to get tested and to quarantine, and you really must follow those instructions because we have a very rigorous process of trying to work out who's a close contact and who's not. So that's where we're up to with the 3rd truck driver. Now, I'll tell you about the 4th truck driver. So the 4th driver is a man in his 20s, and he's travelled into South Australia, and prior to that he had been in New South Wales and in Victoria, and this person has also left our state and is now back into Victoria. He had a test on the 31st of August, so that's just yesterday, and as he travelled from our state out to Victoria, and that has returned a positive result. Now, during his time in our state, there have been 4 exposure sites. The first of these is the Ampol Foodery, and that's at Wingfield, and that was on the 30th of August between 5:30 and 6:40 a.m. And all of these sites will be up on our website, and the team is currently SMSing people who have been to these sites who had QR checked in. Now, you may think I haven't received my SMS yet because this is very recent, very hot news, and the team is getting onto those SMSs as we speak. Then we have the next point of call that this gentleman made was at Atlas Steel at Wingfield, and that was the 30th of August between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. And then we have another site, which is the AH Beard at Edwardstown on the 31st of August between 8 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. And the last site is the Tasco Caltex at Tailem Bend Roadhouse. So by this time he's travelling back into Victoria on the 31st, and that was between 1:30 p.m. and 2:45 p.m. So the details of those sites have been listed on our website, and as I said, I have the team at the moment currently identifying contacts and getting hold of them. But obviously a very real risk to us here in South Australia. And then just before coming and organising this press conference, I was notified of a 5th truck driver. And so this has just been a very recent result. My team is currently interviewing this person, and a risk assessment is underway. And once we have the details of the exposure sites from this 5th person, we'll be putting them out up on our website, also putting out a late press release so that will go to the media, and also obviously SMSing anybody that we can identify quickly using the QR codes, so that they can have that information and get people into quarantine as soon as possible. So really we are under extreme time pressure here to protect the South Australian community. My team in CDCB is doing the detailed interviewing, following up with any CCTV footage and sending out SMSs. It is just so important that if you receive an SMS as part of these investigations that you follow the instructions. And I would really like all South Australians to have a look at our website and talk to your family and friends about whether or not they may have been at any of these sites, and make sure that they're following those instructions. Now, I have another little bit of concern here, just to pass on. We, as people know, do regular wastewater testing in South Australia, and I was informed about 2 positive wastewater tests late yesterday. One of those is in the Salisbury area, and we know that we've had positives in that area before related to the Modbury outbreak, so it may be indeed that there have people living in that area that have had COVID and are still shedding the virus. But there is another area, which is the Hallett Cove, Lonsdale, Morphett Vale, Ranella, Shido Park area, and that's another wastewater site which is collected on a regular basis, and we had a test positive yesterday. Now, those 2 sites, there'll be another collection taken today, and we'll have results later back this afternoon or this evening, and we will be really hoping, particularly that site in the southern part of Adelaide will be negative, and that will be, you know, absolutely fabulous. But I just wanted to call that out because if people are living in that area, we don't happen to have any cases that we know about or old cases in that particular area, so it would be very important if anybody in that area has symptoms to go and get tested. So really quite concerning for us at the moment.